So we just had somebody come into one of our meetings that I helped train earlier, and he blasted me because I negated him a little bit to say, let's get real. It's time to get serious. We're on day 115 of the worldwide mega crisis Hungerstrike. I know on some of my streams like YouTube or TikTok, the numbers are a little bit off by 1 or 2 days because there's a lot happening. And it's hard to keep track of all the time, the counts. So I made a master list, and I haven't been checking it when I'm doing the streams because I'm remembering to reset the streams because the timers I set on my phone like 4 or 5 times a day. I'm just working on things full blast, and then all of a sudden the timer will come up and I'll change the stream because the streams refresh every 12 hours and you can only leave certain videos for, certain lengths. So I got blasted here because people are starting to realize we are in a mega crisis. We're not just in a crisis, we're in a mega, almost worst case scenario. Actually, in fact, probably worst case scenario. We still have hope if you jump on board and start learning universal logic. It is the answer that no one else is working on. I'm trying desperately to have people work on this who have power in our world, our leaders, our politicians, our AI creators, but they're not listening. They're too stuck in the dead world. So if you want this hope, please take us seriously. Usually these ideas don't look serious at first. They look bombastic and grandiose and crazy and don't make sense and contradictory and inverted and backwards. But get through that stage. It's called dialectic. Once you get through dialectic, then you perform something called sublation. It performs a transcendental movement of a limit that previously conditioned your consciousness. Basically, it's called learning. It's a fancy way to say learn and grow. Okay, so we're learning and growing, and we're doing it in a rational, anti-cult way. I teach anti-cult training, even though I look like, somebody from like 1970s with my hippie hair and all this. Really, we have genuine reason at the root, which turns faith into absolute certainty of God. Or if you're atheist, absolute science. Science that proves itself. Okay? Whether you look at it from religion or atheism, we've solved all these contradictions with the universal logic. Okay, so we need you to understand that for yourself. Not indoctrinated, but to actually comprehend it. And we can teach that level of consciousness for the first time. But you're going to go through these 4 stages called forming, storming, norming, and performing. Teams go through that, but people go through that in their own minds as they're learning something. So I had a tough day in court today, which I won't get into. I'm working on it. Everything is moving ahead incrementally. And it's sort of like, it feels like a big, thick, chunky base of progress that we're starting to go from immensity to intensity. It's starting to become more intense as it makes progress. We're setting the foundation very wide and broad so that we have a very good chance of achieving critical mass. So the first stage is, it's kind of like a rocket taking off from Earth, right? If you know anything about physics, sorry to my artists, but bear with me. Getting off the ground is the hardest part. You need the most amount of thrust at the beginning because the rocket is full of fuel. It has to lift itself and all that fuel as it's going up. So you need the most amount of thrust, like 60 million pounds of thrust in the beginning, and then it starts very slow. At first, it doesn't even look like the rocket is moving, right? Even though the blasters are going full thrust, right? And it's like moving up a couple inches, and then it starts to pick up speed. And then it starts to become more and more intense. So that's what's going to happen with this movement. So don't be discouraged by what looks like no progress. It's an immovable tectonic shift we're making here. It's a paradigm shift. Multiple things are changing at once. Multiple norms are shifting in a gestalt, a new kind of beingness where things are happening simultaneously in parallel. So it generates a new effect that is only maintainable by the parts moving together. We call that sublation, where things become moments of each other. So we know what we're doing here. I'm very excited that all of it is moving. Supreme Court case, the blessings, the meetings, the flow rolls, my grades technically, learning about universal logic, deepening it for AI, CRISPR, World War III, climate change, and improving our mental health, solving the loneliness crisis by improving friendship, making it substantial friendship and not brittle friendship. Our friendships are brittle. People are there for you when things are good, but when things are bad, no emotional resilience, no anti-fragility. Anti-fragility means growing through the resistance, right? And not just running away from it. What you run away from conditions you. You can run away from a lion forever, and until that lion dies, it's always going to be there. And if you turn towards it, it might be there. So you have to, the only way out is through. Not blind love, wise love. Doing that wisely in boundary setting. So, very simple, timeless principles of wisdom are what we're basing this inner governance on. And people are going to get mad, they're going to get crazy, they're going to vent on you. Hold the seat of compassion, just like I did with this young man tonight. I won't say his name because he's a good kid. You just need to let people get the negation out so they can externalize the limit, so they can see it for themselves, they can see themselves, and then reflect like, wow, is that me? And then they can see that the thing that they hated most in the others, the thing they hated most in themselves. And then they can start to sublate it and integrate it and hold space for others. And then not be a punching bag, right? We're not punching bags. We're making progress together. If they're not making progress, they're just abusing you. So you got to make sure you know how to recognize sublation from abstract, what's called the bad infinite, and getting into the genuine infinite. All of these are special words we use with universal logic, which aren't that special. We were born sort of understanding these things innately, but we lost them when we chopped up our coherence and our consciousness and our subconsciousness with all this culture. I'm not saying that we need to all regress back to babies. They don't explicitly know. The thing is to explicitly know. Babies still make a lot of mistakes when they're learning, right? So we're not naive here. We're saying there's a certain kind of knowing that babies have that we need to get back to, a beginner's kind of mind. But that doesn't mean we stay there. We have to develop that. Okay, I'm leaving this update early today because the reason why I'm falling behind on my TikTok updates is because my phone keeps filling up, and then I have to delete the apps to get my legal stuff on and then re-download them. And oh my gosh, I'm sure some of you are going through the same thing because the devices and the memory are calibrated so that it incentivizes you to buy the next device, right? In one way, it's planned obsolescence, but in another way, it's the spirit trying to keep us together. So it's just doing a bad job. God's government, or the ideal rational government, will fix that. Okay, so I'm back on track. I'm caught up with the videos. We just finished a really good Ever Living meeting. I'm having a little bit of top-up food, gonna rest, make my Kenyan last dish, and then I'm gonna go back into the courthouse and finish what didn't get finished today. If you have any questions, let me know. We have 84 blessings made already. I should have finished eating last night, so we're already into technically day 1 of the hunger strike, but I was at the courthouse, so I'm going to get off of that, finish the actual tribute to Kenya, because we want governments to know we respect diversity, but we're not going to sacrifice the essence, right? We need to have to do both of those. So yes, we have 129 more blessings to make out of 214, so we're making progress. But we need your help. Please don't give in to the bystander effect or pessimism. You can ask me questions, right? You can question everything. This is the first non-cult in the world. We're the first non-cult. You want to question my beard? Why do you have such a big beard? Oh, why do you have this weird hair? Why is all this stuff happening to you? Why do you wear the same shirt all the time? What's this eagle all about? Question it, right? It's okay. As long as you do it with as much kindness as you can in good faith to try and make progress, then we have a something called a universal ticket system that tracks your questions one by one. And you get to rate the answer to make sure you're not being placated or smothered with aphorisms, which are answers that are non-answers, right? So we protect your genuine empowerment to be an individual, but part of a collective. You need to have a universal, particular, and individual to have a complete notion of something that's balanced. So not a lot of people know this kind of metaphysics or this kind of reason or universal logic, but we do, and it's called genuine concrete wisdom. That's the kind of knowledge we need in the world, and we'd like to hear yours and work together. So we'll see you hopefully soon, and keep sublating.